Despite all the training, the sweat, and the dedication, most athletes fail to spot unseen enemies that can undermine all their hard work. These performance killers are subtle, sneaky, and can strike even the most disciplined athletes. As a mental performance coach to pro athletes, I've seen firsthand many fall into easily avoidable traps. Sometimes these things appear as performance enhancers, but surprisingly, they can actually become performance destroyers. So to avoid the same fate, you must watch the rest of this video, because I'm going to be covering 4 surprising performance killers that all athletes must avoid. So let's get started. So after pushing your limits in training sessions and delivering top performances, you know that rest is essential. Recovery is often seen as the time to sit back, relax, and let the body heal. And the common view is that after a grueling workout, you deserve to sit down for the rest of the day to recover, right? Well, not exactly. The thing is, sitting too much can actually be one of the most dangerous things for your athletic performance. While rest is crucial, extended periods of sitting can sabotage your hard-earned gains and overall health. When you sit for long periods, your body's metabolic rate drops significantly. This means your muscles are not actively burning calories, leading to decreased blood flow and reduced oxygen delivery to your tissues. Sitting too much can also tighten your hip flexors and hamstrings, reducing your overall flexibility and increasing the risk of injury. So if you do a 2-hour workout and then just sit at a desk or on the couch for 8 hours afterwards, in many ways you can actually start doing more harm than good because of all the things I've just mentioned. Particularly when it comes to those tired muscles that you've worked out, they require extra blood flow to ensure nutrient replenishment and to patch up the micro tears that you've suffered. But they don't get that flow when, as an athlete, you then just sit down for the rest of the day. That's why you can then be super stiff and sore the next day, because you haven't been getting the balance right between active and passive recovery. So be strategic about how much you're sitting around. I get it. Many athletes have to work full-time or in full-time education alongside their sport. But whenever possible, get up every hour to just move around, walk to the kitchen to fix up a snack or get another drink, whatever. And if you find you have to sit down for long periods doing work or schoolwork at home, then a great solution is to get a FlexiSpot desk, who I'm delighted to say are today's video sponsor. FlexiSpot make incredible standing desks, meaning that throughout the day, you can effortlessly switch up your workstation so that you're not spending too many hours sat down and ruining your recovery as an athlete. I've been using their awesome E7 series desk, and it has made such a big difference for me when it comes to reducing muscle soreness in my legs, tightness in my hips, and even stiffness in my back, because I'm able to switch from sitting to standing with just a simple push of a button. They've won multiple Standing Desk of the Year awards and are made of high quality carbon steel, meaning that the desks are super stable. There's also an incredible height range so that you can get it to that perfect height whenever you're sat down or stood up. Honestly, it's been a game changer with helping me reduce the dangerous effects of sitting on my recovery, and it's also making me so much more productive. And I'm sure you want to get all your work done as quickly as possible to the best standard possible so that you can focus more time and energy on your sport. And getting a FlexiSpot desk will allow you to do just that. To celebrate their 8th anniversary, they're having a great sale between August 9th and August 29th, where you can get up to 55% off selected desks, alongside a brilliant opportunity where you could win 99% off your order. So check out FlexiSpot using the link below, and thanks to them for supporting the channel. So for the next one, let me tell you a story from Out of Thin Air, an amazing book on Ethiopian running culture by Michael Crawley. The premise of the book is that the author wanted to live and run with athletes from Ethiopia to understand what is their secret sauce for being so good at running. And on one of his runs, Crawley is struggling to get up some hills over 2,000 meters above sea level, checking his watch every few seconds to track his pace, and he's starting to fall behind the pack. Another runner then catches up and asks him, "What pace do you want?" So Crawley asks for a 4-minute per kilometer pace, and he does his best to keep up. And then he notices that the runner isn't wearing a watch or GPS. So he asks the runner, "How do you know the pace?" And so the runner just then looks at him, smiles, points to his head, and says it's all up here. And then Crawley's watch beeps, showing that they've run exactly 4 minutes per kilometer, not a second off. And for runners, this level of precision is almost impossible, especially uphill at high altitudes. So the point is, in the West, we often obsess over data, trying to find every possible marginal gain and explain athletic success in laboratories. And because of this, we become way too reliant on this data. It dictates absolutely everything, whether that's the pace we're trying to reach, the macronutrients we're trying to hit, or the quality of our sleep. But what often happens is that this obsession with data becomes too much. A recent athlete of mine had previously fallen into this trap. He kept meticulous logs and journals on absolutely everything. And instead of giving him extra confidence to perform his best, it was suffocating. It drained too much mental energy to keep on top of all these things and put him in a constant state of worry that that he wasn't optimizing things. So through my recommendation, he dialed things back a bit and only focused on a couple of key metrics. He took the more intuitive approach to everything else, just like the Ethiopians did in Crawley's book. And sure enough, he started training and playing better again. He felt lighter in his mind and body, which gave him the freedom to just go out there and perform. So looking at the data just for the sake of looking at the data can be incredibly harmful. It's important as an athlete to track things here and there, but it also has to be for an intentional purpose. Otherwise, it's just noise that becomes too much of a distraction. And this obsessive tendency when it comes to data can unfortunately also spill over into another area of your game, one that you think that at face value is helping you improve, but once again can actually become a hindrance. And that is overemphasizing technique. Take, for example, an attacker in football. Spending too much time on the mechanics of how they strike the ball can lead them to neglect other critical aspects of their game, which can actually be more important when it comes to how many goals they actually come to score. Things like positional play and timing runs to get into the right areas to score. Without this balance, even the most technically proficient player can struggle to find the back of the net. When you overemphasize technique too much, you think too much, and your movements become clunky and rigid. You don't allow yourself to have that empty mind that is needed to just execute. Think of someone like Mo Salah. He scored over 150 goals in the Premier League, and despite scoring a few bangers here and there, a huge portion of his goals are actually quite basic and even ugly. He's got quite a scrappy and rough striking technique a lot of the time, and he's not afraid to just toe punt one in. Compare that to someone like Marcus Rashford, who has incredible technique when it actually comes to striking the ball. Many people would say his technique is actually much better than Salah's, but Rashford has had so many times where he's missed chances, often because he's taken too much time to wait for the perfect conditions for him to actually execute the perfect strike. And there's a whole host of incredible athletes in various other sports like basketball or baseball who have incredible three-point percentages or strikeout rates, but their technique is unconventional to say the least. But it doesn't matter. As long as that technique gets desirable results, then who cares if it looks a bit weird? I do get that in some sports, technique is arguably everything when it comes to things like gymnastics or diving. But even with those sports, it's about correcting small things over time through micro adjustments to the point where you don't actually have to think about it. Same with things like going through a swing change in golf. You're still emphasizing technique, but not overemphasizing it. Because once again, the more that you think and obsess about something being perfect, the more tension and more pressure that you actually place on yourself, which doesn't allow you to have the looseness and flexibility to just end up executing. So I'm not saying technique is unimportant. It obviously is in all sports, but there are many times that the quest for perfect technique overshadows the bigger picture and prevents you from just getting the job done. And the bigger picture in general ties into our last point. You see, most athletes fall into a paradoxical trap, and that is caring too much. Caring deeply about your sport is natural for any dedicated athlete. It's what drives you to train hard, push yourself to your limits, and strive for success. It's what allows you to make the huge sacrifices necessary to reach the top. But when you place immense pressure on yourself to succeed, it can often lead to crippling anxiety and a fear of failure. This constant stress can disrupt focus, hinder decision-making, and ultimately sabotage performance. The counterintuitive truth is that sometimes letting go is crucial for achieving peak performance. The very elite in any sport only get to the top by learning to be at peace with all outcomes. Of course, they want to win and succeed, but they're accepting of the fact that this is not a guarantee. There are some days where you perform out of your skin. You don't put a single foot wrong, but you still lose either to a bit of bad luck or an opponent just happening to have the performance of a lifetime. And if you get wedded to the outcome of it being unfair or unjust, you struggle to move on. You get trapped in a cycle of endless what ifs and your future performances suffer. But the truth is, you can't turn back time. Instead, you have to care up until a certain point. You want to care enough so that victory is sweet, but it's not sickly. And you want to care enough so that losing makes you a touch salty, but not outright bitter. Caring too much is what leads to indecision and inability to sleep the night before competition, or getting too worked up that you might make a critical mistake a few seconds or minutes into your performance. Finding the sweet spot of caring about your sport is incredibly difficult. It's a super thin line where on one side is obsession and the other side disinterest. But you can find that sweet spot if you know how to use mental tools and strategies to keep yourself on that line. And to help you with this, you should watch this video next.